When it comes to Danganronpa, I have a lot of unpopular opinions. Here are a few examples. I enjoyed the end of Hope's Peak Academy and the Nagito Kamida OVA, and would have been fine if they ended the series with that instead of releasing another game. I think Chiaki Nanami is a boring, overrated character. I like Ruruka Ando more than Seiko Kimura. I think Kaede Akamatsu x Suichi Saihara is the worst ship in the entire Danganronpa franchise, and so on and so forth. I might cover these topics in future videos, but today I want to talk about a different unpopular opinion. I never had a problem with Junko Enoshima being in the second game. I don't even see her as the mastermind behind the Goodbye Despair killing game. Like, at all. Someone else entirely is responsible for the chaos in Goodbye Despair. Someone else entirely deserves all the blame. Izuru Kamukura. If you played or watched a Let's Play of another episode, Ultra Despair Girls, you probably remember Izuru making a brief appearance during the epilogue. In this scene, we see him rip two Junko/Monokuma AIs out of Shirakuma and Kurokuma's heads. He then walks away, presumably to prepare for the events of Goodbye Despair. Now, it's not like Izuru was hanging out in Toa City the entire time and we just didn't see him. This Chapter 5 conversation between Nagito Kamida and Monika Toa proves that Izuru didn't even enter the city until the very end of the game. Meaning, Izuru went out of his way to come to Toa City just so he could steal two copies of an AI from Monika. His only goal and purpose in this game was to collect these AIs. Later on, he plugged one of those AIs into the Neo World program. Being, as Nico B likes to call him, the ultimate everything, Izuru has every talent in existence, including analytical skills that allow him to foresee events and behaviors. He also knew what kind of person Junko was because he spent a lot of time with her before she died. That being said, I am positive Izuru foresaw the events of Goodbye Despair using his analytical skills. He knew something bad would happen if he plugged the AI into the system, but he didn't care. He knew the Junko/Monokuma AI, upon figuring out where it was and what was going on, would take advantage of the situation and start a killing game. And that's exactly what he wanted. Izuru Kamukura deliberately planned for this to happen. If you think about it, Izuru's motives for sabotaging the Neo World program were pretty selfish. He did it because he wanted to see a battle between hope and despair to determine which side was slightly less predictable and thus slightly less boring to him. In other words, he was completely motivated by his boredom with the world, by his desire to find some form of satisfaction. That makes him as bad as Junko and worse than Nagito. Izuru's desire to see a battle between hope and despair explains why he wanted to use a tool that resembled Junko. Junko founded the ultimate despair. She was well known, she was feared, and she represented the very concept of despair. To many people, she was the physical embodiment of despair. The Future Foundation and the Neo World program, aka the Hope Restoration program, represented the very concept of hope. To many people, they were the physical embodiment of hope. So, in order to witness the ultimate battle between hope and despair up close, Izuru had to put the two together. Once he did that, all he had to do was wait and see what would happen.
Is that it? No, there's more.
In Chapter 0 of Goodbye Despair, Izuru has a small conversation with Nagito during the boat ride to Jabberwock Island. This conversation suggests that there's another reason why Izuru decided to use the AI as a tool. He wanted to get back at the late Junko for using him as a tool during the Student Council killing game. Seeing how Izuru had multiple motives, and seeing how he planned everything out in his head, I feel the true mastermind behind the Goodbye Despair killing game can only be him. The Hope Restoration program would have gone off without a hitch if it weren't for him. Junko was just a tool and a figurehead used by Izuru. Right before Goodbye Despair's 4th class trial starts, Nagito tells Hajime Hinata about this book. The book was a murder mystery told from a teenage girl's perspective. At the end of the book, we learn that the teenage girl was the killer the whole time, but nobody reading the book suspected her because of how the story was written. When I first watched a Let's Play of Goodbye Despair, I had no idea what the point of this scene was. I was as confused as Hajime. After I finished watching the game, I rewatched this scene a couple times, and after thinking about it for a long time, I came up with 3 possible explanations. A. This whole conversation is just a really random Danganronpa Zero reference the writers decided to shoehorn into the script. B. This conversation is meant to foreshadow the plot twists revealed at the very end of the game. Or C. A little bit of both. Remember, at this point in the story, Nagito knows the truth about the island and the other students. He knows that everyone brought to the island were with the ultimate despair. He alludes to this in his conversation with Hajime and during his final video message. Notice Nagito's use of the word protagonist in both scenes. The game is suggesting a parallel between Hajime and the protagonist in Nagito's book, meaning this seemingly random conversation actually foreshadows the fact that Hajime, the story's protagonist, the person we're playing as, the person we're perceiving this world through, is Izuru Kamukura, the person who sabotaged the Neo World program. In other words, Hajime was the mastermind the whole time. It really aggravates me when people complain about Junko being in the second game. It really aggravates me when people claim that Junko was the mastermind again, or that it's always Junko. Sure, let's just ignore the fact that Izuru, Monika, Tengen, and Tsumugi all exist. That's logical and not at all infuriating. You know what I've noticed? There's a key difference between Izuru and all the other Danganronpa villains and masterminds. Izuru actually succeeded and got away with what he did, with no consequences whatsoever. Junko was eventually defeated and killed, Monika was defeated and paralyzed, at least it's implied that she was, Tengen was killed, Tsumugi was killed. All these people got their comeuppance, and what happened to Hajime Izuru? Nothing. At the end of Danganronpa 3, we see him happily sailing off with his friends. Nothing suggests that Makoto and whatever was left of the Future Foundation ever punished him for all the trouble he caused them in Goodbye Despair. He got off scot-free! The same thing is happening in the fandom. People are giving Hajime Izuru a free pass and blaming everything on Junko, despite the fact that the real Junko had died long before Goodbye Despair and therefore was incapable of being directly involved. You know what? I'm starting to think that was a factor in Izuru's plan. I bet the other reason he decided to use the AI was so he could shift the blame onto someone else and avoid the consequences later on. Again, we know that Izuru has analytical skills that allow him to foresee events and behaviors. He knows the Future Foundation and Class 78 resent Junko for starting the tragedy and hosting the 78th class killing game, so he probably predicted that seeing something that resembles Junko would stir up some unpleasant memories and emotions, and thus prevent everyone from seeing things clearly. AI Junko wasn't just a tool, she was a scapegoat. Izuru used her as a scapegoat so he wouldn't get into trouble with the Future Foundation, and the fandom is using her as a scapegoat so they can avoid blaming the game's protagonist for everything that happened. I started this video with a list of unpopular opinions, and I'm going to end it with one. I don't have a problem with the Junko AI. I think Izuru is Goodbye Despair's true mastermind. And I think listening to people complain about Junko, all while ignoring Izuru's role, is one of the most frustrating things about being in the Danganronpa fandom. You probably don't agree with me, and that's fine. You don't have to agree with me. I just wanted to say my piece and put my thoughts out there. Hi everyone, thank you for watching the video and enduring my little rant at the very end. So, do you agree with anything I had to say? Do you disagree with anything I had to say? Let us know in the comments below. Also, do you have any unpopular opinions or pet peeves related to Danganronpa? Let us know that too. Thank you for watching, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Bye!